Some members of the arts sector have raised concern about how the Arts and Culture Department has managed the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the arts sector. The Cultural and Creative Industries Federation of South Africa has alerted members of the creative sector that there will be a delay in the implementation of the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program. Joining us now to discuss the postponement of the program is Ayanda Khota, Cultural and Creative Industries Federation of South Africa's Secretary General. Ayanda, a pleasure to have you on the program this afternoon. Now, there's been some concern raised about how the Arts and Culture Department has managed the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the arts sector. What's your assessment?
Our take is we don't have any concerns rather than the delay that was created in terms of distributing of the relief funds, which we will also be made aware from the department side, and then the slow distribution from provinces to the MECs, which we are talking to some of the MECs that have never distributed funds as we speak.
Now, the creative industry forms part of the economy of this country, which was severely affected by the economic stoppage brought about by the global pandemic. What has the impact been on the artists here?
The impact is very badly translation. You know that we were one of the sectors that was hardly hit by the COVID-19. Our industry has never been active at all since from March. Only now we started to do some few activities after the announcement of level 1 by the president. We really felt the heat, and it has impacted negatively on the economy of the sector.
Now, you speak about the impact that the stoppage has had on the arts industry. Just tell us, your federation has since alerted members of the creative sector that there will be a delay in the implementation of the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program for the creative sector. At this stage, do we know what has caused this delay, and what does this delay mean for artists?
Thank you very much. You must remember that the delay of Presidential Employment Stimulus Program, it is not only on the creative sector, the delay in all the sectors, all the ministers, they have requested to look into the matter. That was the intervention that was made by the president through the employment stimulus program. And one of the ministers, which is our minister, is also involved in saying they need time to put more contribution, maximize more contribution into the rotation of creation of economy into the sector. So it's not only us as the creative sector, the whole sector. It was also being affected by the slight delay from the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program.
But I have to ask you this. I mean, as a federation that represents artists, what exactly are you requesting? What are you putting on the table? What are you proposing to government?
Yeah, when government presented the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program to us, which was last week, we made contribution through the meetings. It was not only us as CIFSA, we had only other organizations that were contributing towards the program. And our concern was that we don't want to find ourselves making inputs to government that are not going to be implemented or be taken into consideration. We understand that government cannot take all the proposals that we're putting on the table, but at least if 70% of those programs can be taken into consideration. You should also remember that we were expecting 1.2 billion from the Presidential Employment Stimulus Program as the creative sector, and our budget was badly cut at least 50%. We are now sitting with 665 million that is going to assist in creating employment to the creative sector. We have engaged with the government to say, let's make call for proposal after the minister has announced the stimulus program to the sector. We should wait for the right time, and then the creative sector, through their organizations and provinces, they should be able to put their proposal in creating employment for the sector, including them as artists.
But now there have been many questions raised by artists on what opportunities are actually presented by government's response to this COVID-19 pandemic and the effect that it's caused on artists in terms of their income. There are also problems that stakeholders in the arts sector have raised with the COVID-19 relief fund for artists. Just take us through some of the issues that have been raised or some of the problems that have been experienced.
Let me start with the opportunities. This is one of the opportunities that the government has put in place. So for us to say, they have got 665 million, which was supposed to be 1.2 billion for us as the creative sector to say, let's come up with programs that will create employment for artists. And they are actually taking it to us as the creative sector, but as government, they will be the implementing agency of it. We'll only be coming with programs and making sure that artists participate in all spheres of the creative sector. So it's one of the opportunities that they have done for us. And again, during the process of relief fund, we have received, the government have received close to 5,600, and I can't remember the exact number, of applications. And as we speak, they have been funded close to 3,000 programs and artists that were funded through relief fund by government. And those who were not funded, they had an opportunity to have what you call an appeal, to appeal to an appeals committee, which have looked into the program. And the minister also announced, after our engagement with him as the Federation of the Creative Industry in the country, we made an appeal of having a second wave, and we are sitting with a second wave, but where the number and the quantity that we have received from the creative sector is very low, and this shows that from the first relief fund, most of artists have benefited. So the second relief fund did not receive much attention from the creative sector. So it's not a problem as such. We are addressing such things, and we are also saying, let's also use the opportunity that is presented to us, which is the employment program by the government as the creative sector.
I guess the wider question to ask here is also whether government's response has been adequate. What do you propose to be done to ensure that the livelihoods of artists are actually saved?
We are proposing that the government should continue speaking with the federation that was created by the creative sector through them as government, so that they stop confusing processes, because speaking with a lot of stakeholders in resolving issues of the creative sector, it will create a very tension or a slow process in delivering some of services to the creative sector, because as we speak, artists, they know that the federation that they need to belong to and to serve and to contribute as artists, it seems that the Cultural and Creative Federation of South Africa. So government should put their foot down and channel most of the resources, channel most of the information, channel most of things that they want to achieve as government in working hand in hand with us. They should not be shy around that. They should know that we are here to work with them. We are not here only to criticize them, or we are not here to fight them. We are here to say we need to serve the creative industry. We need to serve our artists. There are a lot of things that we need to fix, including regulating the creative industry. But as soon as we have done that, it will be easier for the creative sector to work and to flow.
Now, there have also been calls made for the simplification of the process to actually tap into this COVID-19 relief fund. What has the response been? Do artists actually get or understand the process of having to apply for these funds? And I want you to specifically consider those who may not exactly be literate.
Yes, the simplification of applying, government did acknowledge that on the first relief, their criteria was very tight, was very watertight, and it disturbed a lot of artists from applying. On the second wave, it was an easy process that you must remember that we are dealing with a government money. So tax processes or tax clearance is very key in anything that you are doing. You need to be compliant when you are dealing with government resources. We don't want to find ourselves in issues of PPE as the creative sector, where we don't know where money left. So the issues of the simplification was have your tax clearance, have your profile, so prove to us that you are an artist, have a reference letter that says you are an artist, and have a bank account that is working. Not to say necessarily that your bank account needs to have millions. Show us that the bank account is working. So that's what we have proposed to government as is, and it's only 4 documents that are needed for you to access the relief fund from government. And I don't think it was very difficult for that. They have really listened to us in simplifying the access to the fund.
But what does the future look like, especially for South Africa's art scene post-COVID?
I must say the future, we cannot predict it for now. It doesn't look promising, but it's upon us as the creative sector to work hand in hand with government in achieving what we want to achieve. It won't be easy, but the future doesn't look promising as South African creative industry. We don't have a paper that governs us. We don't have policies that governs us. We still need to revisit most of the policies. We are not regulated. We still need to talk to SARS not to hit us with 25% after our salaries. So we still have a lot to work on as the creative sector. But we can only achieve that if we work through an organized formation like CIFSA, which is there to listen to artists, there to listen to government, and advocate what is needed.
Right there. Thank you very much for your time, Ayanda. That's Ayanda Hoda, the Secretary General of the Cultural and Creative Industries Federation of South Africa.